So look into segment 4, levy and collection under IGST. So in this, first we need to understand what is the meaning of India. The meaning of India for the purpose of GST is up to 200 nautical miles from baseline. That is, whenever the supply takes place up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline, it is known as supply in territorial, like taxable territory, and supply beyond 200 nautical miles from baseline is known as supply beyond, like outside India, supply outside India. And if the supply takes place up to 200 nautical miles, it may be either intra or inter depending upon the situation. If the location of supplier and place of supply is in the landmass of India, then it will be called as either intra or inter determined as per section 8 or section 7. Whereas if it is up to territorial waters, that is up to 12 nautical miles from baseline, again it will become either intra or inter determined under section 9. If the supply takes place, that is if the place of supply is beyond 12 nautical miles and up to 200 nautical miles from baseline, then it is deemed interstate as per section 7.5c, and if it is beyond 200 nautical miles also, it will be deemed interstate. And in this, what you need to remember is that meaning of India is up to 200 nautical miles from baseline. Then we need to understand what is the meaning of intrastate supply. What is intrastate supply? If the location of supplier and place of supply is in the same state or same union territory, then it will be intrastate supply. If location of supplier and place of supply is in two different states or two different union territories, a state and a union territory, then it is interstate supply. But if you see the proviso to section 8.1 and 8.2, there are few transactions, even if location of supplier and place of supply in the same state, it will not become intrastate, that is supplied to or by SEZ. Supply to SEZ, supply by SEZ is deemed interstate. Even import of goods also deemed interstate, and supply of goods to a tourist is also deemed interstate. That's the reason why it will not come under intrastate. Then in section 7, meaning of interstate supplies. So there are some deemed interstate, that is import of goods and import of services. Then 7.5a, if the supplier is in India but the place of supply is outside India, it's a deemed interstate. Consequently, export of goods and export of service also will come under deemed interstate. Then supply to SEZ or supply by SEZ. Thereafter, supply in India but not elsewhere specified, which means supply takes place in India, that is beyond 12 nautical miles and up to 200 nautical miles is supply in India but not elsewhere specified. That's why it is deemed interstate. Next, another point, if the place of supply is determined under section 13 and it is in India, when place of supply is determined under section 13, if either supplier or the recipient in India and the other outside India, any one in India, other outside India, then place of supply is determined under section 13. The moment place of supply is determined under section 13, it will always be deemed interstate supply. You cannot call it as intrastate supply. For example, there is an architect who is in Tamil Nadu providing construction services to Mr. Elon Musk in US in relation to the property in Tamil Nadu. In this case, location of supplier is Tamil Nadu and place location of recipient US. So therefore, the place of supply is determined under section 13. As it is service in relation to immobile property, the location of immobile property will be taken. What is the location of immobile property? Tamil Nadu is taken as place of supply. Even though supplier and place of supply in Tamil Nadu, it will not become intrastate supply. It will be deemed interstate under 7.5c. That is this. Once the place of supply is determined under section 13 and that is in India, don't forget, it will always be deemed interstate and chargeable to IGST. Then next, we need to understand meaning of export of goods and export of services. Export of goods means taking goods from India to a place outside India. Whether consideration is in convertible foreign exchange, that is not a criteria to become export of goods. Consideration may be in Indian rupees or consideration may be in foreign exchange for the purpose of export. But once the export happens, thereafter if you are not realizing the foreign exchange within the time limit under FEMA, then whatever refund that we have already claimed needs to be paid along with interest. So that is this. Consideration in convertible foreign exchange is not a condition. However, if foreign exchange not realized within the time limit under FEMA, refund claim shall be recovered. Then what is the meaning of export of services? Total 5 conditions. Supplier in India, recipient outside India, place of supply outside India. Consideration should be in convertible foreign exchange. It can be in Indian rupees if permitted by RBI. 2 cases it is permitted by RBI. One is services to Nepal and Bhutan. Another is consideration received in rupee escrow account, which is maintained in outside India by a bank. Then supplier and recipient are not two establishments of the same person. Suppose if there is a branch which is incorporated outside India under the law of that country. Head office is in India, but the branch office is outside India, and the branch is incorporated outside India under the law of that country, then definitely it will be treated as a different person only. Supply from a company incorporated in India to the establishment outside India, which are incorporated under the law outside India, would qualify as export of service subject to fulfillment of other conditions. Then deemed interstate supplies. There are some transactions which are regarded as deemed interstate supplies, supply to SEZ or supply by SEZ. Then import of goods, import of services, export of goods, export of services. Then supplier in India and place of supply outside India. So then we have, so supply to a tourist, but at present it is not effective. Then sixth one, supply of goods beyond territorial waters and up to 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Then supplier in India, place of supply outside India, but it is determined under section 13. So these are the transactions we saw. Apart from the two more transactions, security lending under SEBI, that is the RCM, first point. Usually in security lending, it is happening through stock exchange. So the lender of securities don't know who is the borrower of the securities. So due to that reason, it will be always deemed interstate. Also trading in priority sector lending certificate. So one bank which will be selling priority sector lending certificate to another bank which has not met the target of priority sector lending. So this sale will happen through e-Kuber portal of RBI. So the selling bank don't know the buying bank. Due to that reason, it will be treated as deemed interstate supply. Then advances received, and we don't know whether it is intrastate supply or interstate supply, then it will be categorized as deemed interstate supply. And in case of advances, what should be the rate of GST that should be taken? 18%. If some rate is given in the question, go by that rate. If the question is silent about that, the rate should be 18%. And the nature of supply should be interstate supply, deemed interstate supply. These are the 10 transactions. Whenever you see these 10 transactions in the question, you should not check location of supplier, place of supply. Always it will be deemed interstate supply. Then supply in territorial waters, that is up to 12 nautical miles from baseline. If the location of supplier or place of supply is in territorial waters, we need to see the nearest coastal state as the location of supplier or the place of supply. For example, there is a marine engineer in Tamil Nadu who is providing services to a foreign ship which is located in the territorial waters. Now the place of supply is determined under section 13. As per section 13, we need to see location where service is actually performed. The service where it is actually performed is in the ship, because in case of ship which is used for business purpose only, we have an exception which says that location of recipient should be taken as place of supply. Otherwise, if it is not for business purpose, then we need to see location where service are actually performed. It is in territorial waters. We need to see the nearest coastal state. If the ship's nearest coastal state is Tamil Nadu, this person is also in Tamil Nadu, therefore it will become intrastate supply. If the ship's nearest coastal state is in Andhra Pradesh, then it will be coming under interstate supply, But here the moment place of supply is determined under section 13, it should be deemed interstate now. Then how can it will become intra or inter? So because just now we saw deemed inter, once the place of supply is determined under section 13, it should be deemed inter. Here also the place of supply is determined under section 13, because marine engineer is in Tamil Nadu and Mr. Musk is located outside India, then definitely it should be section 13, correct? So then in that case, what should be taken as the, like nature of supply? So that's where section 9 starts with the word notwithstanding anything to the contrary contained. So which means that it will always be treated as intra or inter. So 9 will override other sections. So even though section 13 wants to determine it is deemed interstate, but for the purpose of section 9, we need to follow section 9 only. Even if place of supply is determined under section 13, supply in territorial waters may be intra or inter, as section 9 overrides any other provisions of IGST Act. Okay, that is with respect to this. Next, zero rated supplies. What are considered as zero rated supplies? That is export of goods or services, supply of goods or services to SEZ with respect to authorized operations of SEZ. So that will be treated as zero rated supplies. But very important point in the zero rated supply itself, it is given that supply of goods or services to SEZ unit or developer with respect to authorized operations of SEZ. So if it is not in relation to authorized operations of SEZ, then it will not be coming under zero rated supplies. Okay, whether GST paid on inward supply, yes, and it can be availed as ITC. And even though my outward supply is zero rated, I can take ITC on my inward supply, but ensure that it is not a blocked credit. And option 1, pay IGST and get refund of unutilized ITC, or don't pay any GST and get refund of ITC with respect to inputs and input services. And government on the recommendations of council can specify certain categories of goods or services or notified class of suppliers for whom refund is not available. Accordingly, there are some notified goods or services like pan masala, tobacco and tobacco products, essential oils other than those of citrus fruit. Neither option 1 nor option 2. Both the options are not possible. If it is export of goods upon payment of customs duty, then option 1 is only available, option 2 is not possible. Suppose if it is export of exempted goods, option 1 not possible because there is no IGST. That's why naturally option 2 only. In all other cases, we can follow either option 1 or option 2. Then you can see in the next page, if location of supplier is in India and place of supply is outside India, no doubt it is a deemed interstate. Now check other conditions also. Supplier in India, place of supply outside India. Check other conditions also. What are those other conditions? Recipient outside India, consideration is in convertible foreign exchange, supplier and recipient are not two establishments of the same person. Check other conditions also. If all other conditions are satisfied, first it is interstate and it will become export and it will be zero rated. So two options are available, either pay IGST, get refund, otherwise don't pay IGST, will get the refund of ITC, like that. Suppose if any one condition is not satisfied, first location of supplier in India, place of supply outside India, but out of these three conditions any other condition not satisfied, then it will be interstate. That's it, interstate, and we need to pay IGST unless the transaction is exempted. Then next same way, supply of goods or services between SEZ and DTA. Suppose if it is supplied to SEZ unit or SEZ developer. Now you need to check, is it for authorized operations or for other than authorized operations. If it is for authorized operations of SEZ, then it will be interstate and it will also become zero rated. So naturally two options will be available. If it is for others, not for authorized operations, it is interstate. Why interstate? Supply to SEZ is interstate, but it will not become zero rated. We need to pay IGST unless it is exempted. Then supply by SEZ unit or SEZ developer. Supply by SEZ will never become zero rated. It will be only deemed interstate and we need to pay IGST. It is deemed interstate under 75B. 75B, it is deemed interstate. IGST payable unless it will be exempted. So it will never become zero rated. So this is just the connection between interstate supplies and zero rated supplies, so that if it is not zero rated, you should know what should we do. So we need to just pay the IGST.